Retiring in Northern Michigan may sound like a dream. Whether you're planning on having an active lifestyle in retirement or just enjoying a little bit slower pace of life, Northern Michigan could be a perfect place for you to retire. But before you pack up and head north, there are a few things you need to know. Things like, what does it actually cost to live here? And how does living in Northern Michigan differ from living here seasonally to living here full-time? And if you're not going to be here full-time, how do you care for your home when you're not in town? In this video, I'll walk you through everything you need to know before you decide whether retiring in Northern Michigan is right for you. Things like real estate costs, what the winters are actually like, and maybe even a couple of things you weren't thinking of. Hi, my name is Gino D'Angelo. I'm a real estate agent and lifelong resident in Northern Michigan. Over the years, I've helped hundreds of families decide whether retiring in Northern Michigan was right for them or not. I'm here to give you the honest perspective from my experience in helping those families choose whether Northern Michigan was right for them or not. Retiring in Northern Michigan means something different for everyone. It can mean either a slower pace of life or a more active lifestyle, or somewhere in between. Some people retire here to enjoy the sunrises or sunsets and soak up nature, while others love how easy it is to be active in Northern Michigan as they age. In the summer, this region comes to life. No matter what town you choose to retire in Northern Michigan, the summers are filled with activities. Whether it's the local farmers market, the art fairs, or one of our numerous carnivals, there is truly something for everyone in Northern Michigan in the summertime. And if entertaining the grandchildren is a priority, then I'm here to tell you there is tons for them to do in the summer also. Now, I recently just helped a couple who decided to retire in Northern Michigan. And one of the things that they loved the most was just how social Northern Michigan is. Let's face it, Northern Michigan has been a hub for retirees for as long as I can remember. What's nice about that for people moving into the area is there's a social network already built in. And I'm not talking about Facebook or Instagram. There are tons of groups they can get involved in, things from art classes to cooking classes to even pickleball. Something that surprised me when talking to retirees that they liked about retiring in Northern Michigan was just how many opportunities to volunteer and give back to the community that there were. In fact, the Manna Food Project, which is a great food pantry in Northern Michigan that helps hundreds and hundreds of families, has some great volunteer opportunities for retirees where a group of them will get together and pack backpacks for kids, stock the warehouse, or other activities. Because let's face it, one of the joys about being retired is that you no longer have to work for money and you can work for things that you really feel passionate about. Just in my daily life in Northern Michigan, you'll see retirees occupying jobs as rangers at golf courses or even greeters at Meijer, which is the local grocery store. It's a great way for retirees to get out and maybe even make a little bit of extra money on the side. One negative I have heard from people who have chose to retire in Northern Michigan year-round is just how harsh the winters are. As you get a little bit older, you might not be as comfortable to drive in the snow, and icy sidewalks definitely become more of an issue. And those are definitely two things you're going to want to keep into consideration. Now, if you're planning to do what a lot of retirees do, which is live in Northern Michigan during the summer months and go to Arizona or Florida during the winter months, that won't be an issue for you. But before we get into the next part and start talking about what it actually costs to live in Northern Michigan, drop a comment below. Are you thinking about retiring in Northern Michigan full-time or just part of the year? I'm genuinely curious, and it's fun to watch these trends evolve over time. If you're thinking about retiring to Northern Michigan, you're probably wondering, what does it cost to live here? And my answer to that is very varied. There is a wide range of different types of properties in Northern Michigan, and I'm confident you can find something you will love in every price range. If you're looking at places like Petoskey, Harbor Springs, or Traverse City, the entry level is going to be right around $450,000. Now, of course, depending on what you want in a home, as far as amenities, location, water view, or even being on the water, houses will definitely go up from there. And if your dream is to buy a retirement home that you can sit on your back deck and watch the sunrise or sunset, those homes typically go for around $1 million and often more. And if you're curious what homes actually cost and you want to have a more in-depth conversation with what you can get for your money in Northern Michigan based on what you want in a home, feel free to call me, 231-487-6141, and I'd be happy to go over that with you. Now, a popular form of living in Northern Michigan for retirees are condominiums. Those tend to start even a little bit lower than single-family homes. you can find condos in Northern Michigan starting for right around $200,000. Now, those are going to be smaller and not have as many amenities as the more expensive condos in Northern Michigan, but they are a great place to start and a very affordable way to live the Northern Michigan lifestyle. There are also a handful of 55 plus retirement communities in Northern Michigan. If you're familiar with the Villages in Florida, which is a much bigger version of that, that is a good idea of what those communities get you here. And again, if you'd like to know a little bit more about those, feel free to reach out to me directly. When talking about what it costs to live in Northern Michigan, especially if you're on a fixed budget, which a lot of people are during retirement, one of the major differences when living here part-time or full-time are property taxes. You're going to pay a lot less for property taxes in Northern Michigan if you're here full-time. Now, if you're spending part of the year here, you can still homestead your home in Northern Michigan, and you're going to want to check with your accountant to make sure which option is best for you. Also, here's an insider tip. If you're serious about retiring in Northern Michigan, the fall is the best time of year to find a deal on a house. That's when a lot of the listings that have not sold over the summer are much more likely to take a lower offer than they were in the heat of the selling season. Now, I get it. Not everyone wants to spend 12 months out of the year in Northern Michigan. In fact, a large portion of the people that reside in Northern Michigan, whether they're retired or not, don't spend their entire years here. In fact, I'm often jealous of the people that spend just the summer months in Northern Michigan and then go someplace during the winter months. I think that is the perfect lifestyle if it accommodates your everyday living. So let's talk about what happens to your home when you're not here. First and foremost, if you're not going to be here in the wintertime, you have to make one of two decisions. One, winterize your house, which means blowing the water out of the pipes and making sure your house won't freeze while you're gone and turning the heat off. A lot of people elect to just leave their heat on 50 to 55 degrees so the house doesn't freeze and they can avoid winterizing their house altogether. That choice is personal, and if you'd like to talk a little bit more about the pros and cons of each, I'd be happy to talk to you directly. Some people who have second homes in Northern Michigan, whether retirees or not, pay for a caretaker or a property manager to check on the house during the winter. It's not an incredibly high expense and will certainly give you the peace of mind to know that your investment in Northern Michigan is safe and sound while you're not here. I believe being a snowbird is an amazing lifestyle, and if you're able to do that, you have truly lived life the right way. Just make sure you have a plan in place to make sure your Northern Michigan home is okay when you're not here. Now, if you're going to bite the bullet and live in Northern Michigan year-round, just make sure you know what you're getting into during those winter months that we mentioned earlier. In fact, this area gets anywhere from 100 to 150, sometimes in some areas, even as much as 200 inches of snow every year. We're not talking about getting a little bit of snow. We're talking about living a very snow-filled lifestyle. And the snow brings along with it a few more things to think about. One, you're going to have to figure out how to handle the snow. Do you want to get up every morning and snowblow or plow the driveway yourself? Or would you prefer to have somebody else do it for you? On the positive side, I do know a lot of people who have retired in Northern Michigan and chose to live here year-round because they love the winter hobbies, such as downhill or cross-country skiing, or even snowshoeing in one of our beautiful nature preserves. Now, of course, if you're thinking about retiring in Northern Michigan, healthcare is probably at the top of your list. While Northern Michigan does have great hospitals in both the McLaren and Munson hospital systems, for specialized care, you're likely going to have to travel elsewhere. Sometimes you're able to go as close as Traverse City. Other times you're going to find yourself making the trip to Detroit, Ann Arbor, or even Grand Rapids. Now, those are short drives, but keep in mind if that's something you want to deal with before deciding whether Northern Michigan is right for you or not. One thing I repeatedly hear from my clients who have retired here is how much they love the sense of community. In fact, I believe that's a large reason people choose to retire in Northern Michigan. When you retire in a bigger city, you feel like just a number. In Northern Michigan, whether you're moving here because you want to retire or just relocate to a new area, we have a tremendous sense of community here. One of my favorite things about living in Northern Michigan is whether it's the coffee shop, the grocery store, or any of the other places I frequent. Over time, you get to know the people working there and they get to know you. And I think that is something that is truly special about living in Northern Michigan. And look, if you plan to keep to yourself, that's perfectly fine too. Northern Michigan definitely has a great sense of community, but nobody bothers you if you want to be left alone. Retiring in Northern Michigan isn't for everyone. But if you love beautiful nature and the ability to be either active or live a little bit more of a laid back lifestyle and the small town life appeals to you, Northern Michigan could be perfect. Also, if you enjoy 4 seasons and you're somebody that loves the winter, retiring in Northern Michigan full-time could even be fun for you. In fact, I know people that have retired in Northern Michigan year-round that go someplace for only one of the 11 months out of the year. That way they can come back and enjoy the downhill skiing or snowshoeing or whatever their winter activity is. If after watching this, you have more specific questions about what it looks like to relocate in Northern Michigan, feel free to reach out to me directly at 231-487-6141. I'm here to help you with everything from real estate prices to lifestyle options. And I make these videos to truly educate you on whether Northern Michigan is the right spot for you or not. If this type of content is your thing, I also have a newsletter. Simply go to genosguide.com and give me your name and email address, and I'll make sure you never miss an episode about what is going on in Northern Michigan as far as real estate values, hidden gems, and even some new restaurants opening up. Thank you for watching, and I hope to talk to you soon.